and welcome back to Lary Talk. I'm your host with a voice that's perfect for silent films, Henry King. How's it going, guys? And welcome back to week 2 of doing Head and Neck Cancer Awareness Month, doing interviews with other laryngectomies. If you tuned in last week, you'll see that I interviewed Tony Talmadge, and what a great interview that was. Tony was awesome. And this week, we're going to be doing Steve Cooper, who happens to be a board member of Lary's Speakeasy, which is a nonprofit organization that help people with laryngectomies get supplies, help them get insurance. They also have a support group that's on Facebook that's really, really good. So we're going to talk to him today, get to know his story, as well as get to know what Lary's Speakeasy is and what all they do. It's going to be a good time. And then next week is when I'm going to be doing Rob Slack, aka DJ Slacker. And that one's going to be more about like just TikTok, the things we do, trying to normalize being on laryngectomy, erasing stigmas, that kind of thing. So it's going to be an interesting week. Huh? So as entertaining as I am, I know you're here to see the interviews, so we're just going to jump right into it. And here's Steve Cooper, board member of Lary's Speakeasy. Hope you guys enjoy it. So I want to welcome Steve Cooper to Lary Talk. Steve Cooper is a board member of Lary's Speakeasy, nonprofit that helps out laryngectomies. Steve, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Henry. It's an honor to be invited.
It's awesome to have you on here. We're just going to jump right on into it. Where are you from?
Actually, I'm a lifelong resident of Maryland. I've was born in a small town called Cheverly, Maryland, just about a mile north of mile outside of Washington, D.C. And I've lived within 10 or 20 miles of that my entire life. I'm currently, I live in Potomac, Maryland, which is about 5 to 10 miles from 5 to 10 miles from Washington, D.C.
So you're in where all the fun is.
Actually, I'm in the same town as Dan Snyder, but his house is up for sale, thankfully.
As is the team. How old are you?
I am 66.
And do you have any siblings?
Yes, I've got an older brother, an older sister. And they both live in the area. My mom also lives in the area still. She'll be 99 years old this summer.
Nice. And married and have kids?
Yep, married. I've been married since 1978. And I have 3 adult kids and a daughter-in-law. And my daughter is living with her significant other. No grandchildren, but we have 2 granddoggies.
Nice. Okay, and what was your career before cancer? And were you able to continue it afterwards?
I've been in my entire life, it's actually a family business. I've been in the food wholesale business. Basically, we buy and sell grocery products. We buy from the manufacturers and sell to either grocery chains or other wholesalers, distributors. Started when I was in high school, and that was one of my, as all laryngectomies, that was one of my big concerns prior to my surgery. I was 63 years old, no way I could retire, and frankly, I thought I was done. I was ruined. I'd never work again. And, lose the house, the whole 9 yards. Actually, from my hospital room, and I had just signed, tasks to other people to help out and answer emails and field the calls and so forth. But you never know how this is going to play out. From my hospital room, a couple of days after surgery, I was answering emails and trying to conduct business. It was kind of tough. Your mind is not working too well when you're, on pain meds and so forth. But it kept going, and I was fortunate it was a bit difficult not being able to speak, but thank goodness email and text, or I had others that could make phone calls. Speaking to some of the clients with the lecture larynx proved to be a bit challenging. But then once I got my voice prosthesis, it was as if nothing had happened. And I often joke with some of my customers. They seem to be nicer to me now. I don't know if they, pity on a guy with cancer or what, but they're nicer to me now than they were beforehand. So why couldn't you treat me like this before I had my surgery?
Right,
But I'm
right.
fortunate, that I've been able to continue the business, and I know that's not possible for everybody, depending on the extent of the surgery and what you were doing in your previous career.
All right, let's go to the top 5 questions. These are our top 5 icebreak questions before we get into like the dramatic. What do you prefer, a burger or a pizza?
Can I say a cheeseburger pizza?
That
Actually,
works.
pizza's my favorite.
Rock and roll or country music?
Pop.
Pop. What's your favorite color?
Blue.
What's the place you always wanted to visit but you haven't done yet?
There's 2 answers to that question. One is someplace like Tahiti or Bora Bora. But in high school, right after I graduated, wasn't headed to college, wanted to spend some time on the road traveling. Ended up on the island of Kauai, in Hawaii, living on a commune for 9 months. And even though I've been there, I would love to take the family back to that island and, show them my younger days. But it's paradise out there.
Right. My grandfather was stationed out there during World War II, but he never talked about bad times. It was always about how great Hawaii was. It's kind of funny. We wanted to get him out there, but we never did. What would you rather do, comedy or drama?
Well, if the choice is comedy, but I'd like to watch like documentaries or history channel. But so any comedy, or a lot of times I'm zoning out to the History Channel.
Right. Yeah, a lot of stuff we watch is either going to make us laugh or learn something. All right, so let's get right into it. When was your diagnosis and what was your symptoms?
In 2018, my voice was very hoarse. Well, initially I would get hoarse, it would go away, my voice would come back. I'd get hoarse, my voice would come back. And then it got to the point where my voice didn't come back. I was very hoarse, speaking at barely a whisper. December of 2018, I went to visit a ENT. He scoped me and said, oh, it looks like you've got some kind of paralysis on one of your vocal cords. It's not a big thing. I'm going to send you to a laryngologist and they can work with you. There's a lot of stuff they can do and they can help you get your voice back. So that was December. And he said, no urgency, make the appointment when you can. And it was later in January that I got the appointment with, it was a laryngologist at one of the Johns Hopkins facilities in Maryland. And so I made an appointment to see a laryngologist. It was connected with Johns Hopkins Hospital in Maryland. And when I went in, and she had an assistant there, she said, your doctor did not send the video from the scope or any of the pictures. Do you mind if we scope you again? I said, no, go ahead. It's so much fun. And so she inserts the scope and she turns to the other doctor and she says, kind of in a muffled voice, she says, do you see this? Do you see what I'm seeing? And immediately the mood in the room changed. It was just so, you could feel it. So she retracts the scope and she says, Steve, there's some things that we'd like to look at, maybe take some more tests. I said, what are you seeing? She said, well, the test, we'll have to look. Not sure. That's what the test will determine. I said, doctor, this is your field. Are you seeing cancer? She said, I'm afraid so. But, before we jump ahead, we'll have to, do a PET scan, take some biopsies. So I did that PET scan and then subsequently a biopsy. And I was diagnosed with stage 4 squamous-cell carcinoma of the vocal cords. It had invaded the cartilage. And when I asked the surgeon if I could just have radiation, which I had never had before, he said, being that was in the cartilage, there's less than a 50% chance of killing the cancer. So you'll be back here within a year after having been radiated and still require the laryngectomy. So I said to him, well, what if I do nothing? And I'll never forget, he looked me in the eye and he said, you will die a very painful and ugly death. So, in retrospect, it's such a difficult decision when you're facing a laryngectomy. But the truth is, you don't have any choice. It gets to the point where you have no choice. It's either have the surgery or check out.
Yeah.
So,
it's either do it or die, and I'd rather
yeah,
live.
yeah.
So.
And when I mentor other patients that are pre-surgery, I share that with them. And I don't know if nothing helps. Your mind is in a fog when you're first diagnosed. But February 25th, 2019, I had a total laryngectomy. Half my thyroid was removed. Bilateral neck dissection, which means you're cut from ear to ear. They like to call it a happy face. I didn't think it was so happy, but I understand.
You stand on your head, it's upside down. So just stand on your head and then it's a frown. It all depends on how you look at it. How long was your recovery?
I was very fortunate. Part of it was that I had not been radiated previously. Also, the cancer was limited to the vocal cords on the strictly the voice box. It had not invaded the esophagus per se. So I didn't have reconstruction. I didn't have a flap. It was just limited to a laryngectomy. I was in the hospital a total of 11 days, although I could have been dismissed earlier, but the hospital messed up on the discharge papers. So they kept me a couple extra days. I was fortunate. I was tube fed through the nose while in the hospital. But prior to being discharged, they did a swallow test, which I passed. No leakage, no fistula. So even in the hospital, I was allowed to eat liquid foods. And I was up and walking around, I don't know, day 3 after surgery. I started walking the halls. They encouraged me to get up and move. That's a big help. Being able to eat, they removed the feeding tube prior to discharge. When I was put on a soft food diet. So that was mentally that was a big help. And then within 30 days post surgery, I was basically released. They said I could eat anything I want. There was some lifting restrictions, which is common with all laryngectomies. They don't want you to lift. But the bottom line is I healed really quick. In fact, at 11 weeks, I flew from Maryland to Phoenix, Arizona to attend my first IAL conference.
Nice.
With no voice, using a whiteboard.
Did you end up with any depression after the surgery? And if so, how did you overcome it?
Depression is a tough thing with this cancer and all head and neck cancers. Prior to my surgery, my surgeon said to me, Steve, do you have a psychologist or a psychiatrist? I said, no, why? He said, you're going to need one. And I didn't quite understand, thinking he's operating on my vocal cords. He's not, it's not brain surgery. What's going on here? Post-surgery, the recovery, the first couple months, and it's a tough road. It's scary. But it seemed like, day by day, everything was getting better and better. But then within about 3 months, struggling not to speak was the big factor. I hit the wall. I just had a breakdown. And I said, okay, I need to see help. So I online, which is tough to do. I interviewed a couple of psychologists, met with one. And I'm using a whiteboard. I can't speak. Good, the electrolarynx, I just couldn't get the hang of it. And after, then I had prepared some notes when I went in and gave them to her. And after about 10 minutes or so, she said, okay, Steve, here's what I see. You're suffering from, you're in mourning. She said, you lost your voice. Our voices are our personality. It's who we are. It's how we express ourselves. She said, you're in mourning over the loss of you. And I thought about it for a second and I said, okay, Steve, you picked a quack. This is nonsense. I'm in mourning over the loss of me. I'm sitting here. I didn't go anywhere. I'm right here. But then in that session, as we shared some more things, I realized she was spot on. This depression, you're trapped in your body. You can't express yourself. You can't join conversations. Sometimes you feel deformed, especially at the beginning when you haven't accepted things. And it really takes its toll. So I did go on an antidepressant, which is very common with laryngectomies. Continued my sessions. And then within about a year, and that was also tied into regaining speech, which is one of the biggest factors. The depression seemed to subside, although I've spoken to laryngectomies that are 40 years out, and it really never completely goes away. We don't dwell on it, but the trauma, it's PTSD, which I thought, that I wasn't in a war. How can I have PTSD? But I realize now it's a legitimate diagnosis. We all go through it. Speech helps to regain, to get out of that. Joining clubs, laryngectomy groups, mentoring others. There's a lot of tools that will help you both through that.
Yeah, and everybody has their day, There's always that one day where it's like, oh, this sucks. Then you pick yourself up and go on. Oh, hi. Didn't realize you were there. I was just taking a break, reading the second book from Lary, The Silent Night, a Laryngectomy's Journal. His take on being a laryngectomy in the second year. And it's a pretty good read. It's a fun read. He also wrote another book called The Silent Partner, My First Year as a Laryngectomy. And both of these are just him talking about what it was like becoming a laryngectomy in his own words in year one and year two. Year one, The Silent Partner, is a free book. The second book, The Silent Night, you have to pay for it, which is fine. It's cheap. It's on Amazon. Or you could just contact Aaron Wayne direct with the email below. And if you're real lucky, he'll send you some stickers that you could decorate your HME with. Right now, I'm wearing a peace sign because with all the events going on in the world right now, we can use a little peace, I'd say. So contact Aaron Wayne and get your books and help support him and his awareness and his journey. So you're communicating with the whiteboard at the beginning. How long until you were able to voice?
At the beginning, I was struggling with the electrolarynx. Part of it was the swelling, the lymphedema. A lot of it was I just wasn't able to find the sweet spot. And I had mentioned at 11 weeks, I went to the IAL conference in Phoenix. And I had possibly 5 or 6 different electrolarynx people had lent me. I had a Servox, I had a True Tone, I had several True Tone models. I had this one, I had that one. And I met Tony Talmadge the first day at the IAL. And everybody was, laughing at me with these 5 electrolarynxes around my neck. And Tony said, Steve, stop, wait a minute, stop. Put the electrolarynxes away. Not one of them will work unless you can find your sweet spot. And literally within 3 minutes, Tony was able to find my sweet spot. And I was able, at that conference, I was able to communicate with the electrolarynx. It wasn't perfect, but for the first time in months, I was able to be understood. Also, my surgeon had told me I would be a candidate for a deep. I would be, he would look at doing a tracheo-esophageal prosthesis. But Johns Hopkins did not do primary punctures. They did not do the prosthesis at the time of the surgery. They preferred to do what are called secondary punctures or a voice prosthesis done at a later time after the surgery. So initially he said at 6 months, if all goes well, we'll look at giving you a voice prosthesis. Well, 4 months rolls along, and I said, Doc, I'm, like to talk about the plans. And he said, well, we haven't gotten a DEP program approved in this hospital yet. This was Suburban Hospital in Bethesda, Maryland, which is a Johns Hopkins hospital. So he said, I'm working on it, but it's an internal battle. We might have to wait a year till you get your voice prosthesis. And I thought to myself, I can't, that's not what I signed up for. That's not what I was told. And so I interviewed another surgeon at George Washington Hospital in Washington, D.C. He looked at my surgical notes. He looked at my CT scans. I went in afterwards and he said, so tell me again why they didn't want to do a puncture. And I knew right then he felt I was a candidate. So my laryngectomy was February 2019. September 2019, I received my voice prosthesis. And the first couple of weeks, it was a bit of a learning curve. I was struggling to figure it out. Finally got the hang of it. And now, as you can hear, you can't shut me up.
Right. As soon as I was able to talk, man, I was like, yep. Probably about a month later, I started this podcast. All right. So you are a board member of the Lary Speakeasy. What exactly is the Lary Speakeasy? What services do they provide?
Lary Speakeasy is a nonprofit organization, and we supply, our main mission is that we supply laryngectomy supplies to the laryngectomy community 100% free of charge. If you're uninsured, if you're waiting for your insurance to go through, if you're waiting to get authorization to buy from one of the manufacturers and you can't get your supplies, Lary Speakeasy steps in. We offer supplies free of charge, no questions asked. Another thing that we have done or that we do is we've sponsored symposiums for speech pathologists and laryngectomies in areas. We will fund, someone wants to start a local laryngectomy club. We will assist in providing some funds to help you get that going. We provided scores of scholarships to make it possible for patients and speech pathologists to attend the IAL conference yearly, the IAL annual conference and Voice Institute. One thing we're proud of, we are an all-volunteer organization. So, there's none of the funds go to salaries or anything. Anything we raise goes directly to the support of our mission. And lastly, Lary's Speakeasy Facebook group has grown to be the largest laryngectomy support group on Facebook in the world.
It's a great group. If I didn't find them, I'd probably be dead. I'd straight up. Like I was in denial in the beginning about it, and then I watched there was a commercial one day about Facebook groups, and I just typed in laryngectomy, and you guys are the first ones that popped up, and I'm so happy that I did it.
Thank you. Yeah. And that speaks to, anyone listening to this or anyone mentoring other laryngectomies. The support groups are so crucial in our recovery, whether it's a local support group, connecting with a laryngectomy one-on-one, or the many different groups on the internet or on Facebook.
Who created Lary Speakeasy?
Lary Speakeasy was started by a man named Lewis, a wonderful, caring man named Lewis Travel. He started Lary Speakeasy actually as a local support group at Rush Medical Center in the Chicago area. And in March of 2011, and for the first few years, they only had 11 members. And then he saw the need for have something online in the Facebook groups. Then he saw the need to have some of this information online, website, Facebook groups. In 2016, Lou started Lary Speakeasy as a 501c3 organization. And he started the website to give patients, caregivers, family members a place where they can research throat cancer, laryngectomy, and the recovery.
Is Lary Speakeasy a worldwide, or is it just in the United States?
Well, being that we're on the internet, we are absolutely worldwide. I could get you the figures of how many countries we're in. As I said, we're the largest laryngectomy support group on Facebook. Due to some of the laws and regulations, our supply distribution is limited strictly to the United States, but our reach is worldwide. People from, you name it, from South Africa, from Palestine, a lot of members from the UK, South America, all over the world, which is one of the, a lot of members from Australia, which is one of the beautiful things. If someone's up at night worried they have a red spot, they have a cough, their mucus looks funny, it can be 2:00 in the morning, they can jump on our Facebook page, ask a question, and somebody somewhere in the world will be there to answer.
Yeah, it really is amazing where everybody is from, man. Like, okay, what companies do Lary Speakeasy work with, such as Atos or InHealth?
We're fortunate. You mentioned Atos and InHealth. They are very generous in helping us with donations, both product and financially. We rely on those companies and their help, their knowledge, their support. Lauder Enterprises, Jim Lauder helps us out with electrolarynx repairs. There's others, Luminad. They're very, very helpful in the laryngectomy community. And I'm sure there's several others. The number of vendors has been reduced over the last few years in the laryngectomy space. We receive support from many, but the big ones right now, Atos and InHealth, Lauder, Jim Lauder, and like I say, the Luminad family.
All right, and does Lary Speakeasy take donations? And if so, what kind, and how could someone help?
We absolutely rely on donations of product, base plates, HMEs, Lary tubes, you name it, any laryngectomy supplies. We don't do trach supplies. They're hard to handle. We don't do formula, but look, laryngectomy supplies in Unopened packaging, we are always grateful to receive. We have 3 people, 4 people distributing those supplies across the U.S. to patients in need, and also monetary donations. They allow us to mail the laryngectomy supplies to patients free of charge. We don't have an elaborate form. Somebody says, I need base plates. I'm waiting for my insurance to approve. We don't make you fill out a form. We basically ask you 2 questions. What do you need? And what's your address? In order to send those supplies, the donations to pay for the postage, mailing supplies, that's probably our biggest expense. And again, then we fund the scholarships to the IAL, the symposiums, other events around the U.S. So product supplies are important, but I think at this point, our biggest need is monetary donations. And you mentioned, how can someone help? Our website, Larys Speakeasy.org. That's Larys Speakeasy, one word.org. Or on Facebook, we have a donations tab, and donations would be appreciated.
For some, especially the younger generation, Facebook isn't their go-to social media outlet. Is there any other social media outlet you can find Lary Speakeasy on? And if not, is there plans to reach out to other platforms such as Twitter or Instagram?
It's funny you mentioned Facebook and other social media platforms. We just connected with a Laryngectomy who happens to own a web design company, South Metro Web Designs in the Atlanta area. They specialize in SEO, social media management, website building. Larry Anderson is the gentleman who owns it, and he's been amazing. We're rebuilding, relaunching our website. As of yesterday, we are now officially on Twitter. And this was specifically, as you mentioned, you said the younger generation. There's a lot of people that are no longer on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. Like I said, we've launched our Twitter site, our Twitter handle. It's Larry Speakeasy. We were lucky to get that name. We're talking about Instagram and other platforms. We want to make sure we can reach as many people as possible to help them on this journey.
What is your hopes for Lary Speakeasy in the future?
This might sound odd, but as I mentioned, our main mission is providing free laryngectomy supplies to patients in need. Our hope is that that aspect of our mission will cease, that we will no longer do that, meaning that there won't be these hurdles for people to get basic everyday supplies that they depend on for their health, whether it's insurance, whether it's Medicare, whether it's Medicaid, whatever the program is in the U.S., that supplies will be universal, that people won't need to go to a charity to get supplies just so they can breathe, just so they can live. It's an insane system. And so my hope for the future is that we no longer give out supplies, that function is obsolete, and we can focus on the support, laryngectomy clubs, conferences, education, awareness, lobbying, all of the things that this community desperately needs.
All right, Steve, that was the last question I actually had for you. So thank you for joining me on Lary Talk, and thank everybody at Lary Speakeasy for saving my life.
We're so glad. And I want to thank you for these podcasts. You're putting yourself out there. You're providing education to the laryngectomy community. You're providing awareness. And this is such a valuable thing. I know the time commitment you're giving at Lary Talk. And we want to thank you as well.
I'm just trying to pay it forward. That's all I'm trying to do. What a great guy, great interview, right? And I can't really top that either. So we're just going to end it here. If you guys would like to contact me outside of the show, feel free to look me up on TikTok, Lary Talk Talk. You can find me on Facebook, Lary Talk page, or you can go to Lary World for the group. You can go to LaryTalk.com. If you go to the help and support section on there, LaryTalk.com, you can actually find help and support in your area or online. And other than that, I'm just going to call it a day, guys. Take care of yourselves and have a good one.
Everybody wake up.